Well, welcome back to part two. In this section, we will travel around the wildlife loop and then back over to Stockade Park and then back to the campground. So stay with us and join us on the ride. Well, we left off last week coming out of that campground. We took the wildlife loop, and while on this loop, we did see some animals. Not as many as I expected, but this was our first sight of bison outside of the state of Texas. And we traveled through a few states so far, so we kind of were expecting a little bit more than what we actually saw. But we did enjoy this loop. It's quite different from the loop that is in the other mountain, the mountainous area where we were last week. We stopped off here and had some shots of some of the bison that we first initially saw. They were quite ways out, but we had a camera with a zoom, so we were able to pick them up with our camera. Hopefully you're enjoying this ride. It's the road is quite narrow compared to the other one. As you can see, there is no middle line or stripe down the middle of the road. There is enough room for two cars to go by. We have a dually large pickup, so it could get a little close at sometimes. There's quite a few turnoffs that you can pull off and let cars pass, as we did here. We do that quite often because we don't go as fast as the rest of the folks that are traveling down this road. We just like to cruise through here and see as much as we can. As we come into this area, you can see there's quite a few cars parked on the side of the road. And when we come around this last bend up here, you'll see there's quite a few more cars that are parked. Normally, that would say there's some animals in the area. Luckily, the folks that were just pulling out, we pulled in and took their spot. All these animals are within confines of a fence line, so they're pretty much kept in one area. They don't necessarily roam free through the park. Unlike in Texas, there's a state park that the bison actually roam free within the state park. So you'll have bison roaming through your campsite sometimes, which we'll have some video towards the end of our 2019 trip to show you guys of those bison in the park. We were quite surprised when we came around this corner and there was quite a few burros that they were being fed by some of the passerbys, kind of holding up traffic. I think there was like six, maybe 5 or 6, maybe 7 of those burros in the area. We also noticed as we were coming around a bend towards the end of this loop, wildlife loop, is we saw some antelope type deer right there on the right hand side. We stopped and got some pictures of those. I can't remember the name of them. Their horns look like hearts to me. And this pretty much finalizes the wildlife loop. We will make a few more stops along the way. Here we're coming out of the wildlife loop, and then we're heading back towards Custer. Along our path here, we did find a little stop that we stopped off at and checked out the river that was flowing through there. There's a plaque, a side road plaque that gives you information about what it was. But found it kind of interesting. We just sort of stopped off and took a few pictures and enjoyed the sights. Wish I had a fishing pole at that time and throw it in there and see if I could catch something. But no wildlife in this area. Back in and off we go. The next stop we make will be of Stockade Lake. We just sort of drove through the lake area, a little road that went around the lake. We wanted to check it out. Our plans were to come back a couple days to kayak in that lake. So the next video that comes up after this one will be us enjoying some kayak time on that lake, which was quite interesting. Really enjoyed it, had a good time there. There is some nice coves that you could kayak in. The wind was, well, on our way out, the wind was very kind to us, but not so kind on the way back. So here we're back to the main road, and just up a little bit from here is the entrance to Stockade Lake, which is right about there, a little bit further. Go in and drive around the lake. Here was on our left hand side, and there's the entrance. The entrance that we pass on the left hand side takes you down further, where we go back to the next video that comes up. This one we just drove along the side where folks have stopped and did some fishing, or you can do some picnicking. It was really nice. This is actually not Stockade Lake. Stockade Lake had a historical site that was a stockade, so we must have stopped off on the lake just before the Stockade Lake, which was just short distance from our campground where we were staying. So this last part of the video is going back into the campground, and hopefully you enjoyed our big wide loop in these this part two, going to Mount Rushmore, and then doing the Custer State Park and the wildlife loop of this area, and another view of the park as we come back in. And right there is our rig, the Bighorn with the Flamingo up front. Hey, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up. If you want to see more, subscribe.